He risked everything to save a stranger in Beverly Hills, not knowing the old man's identity. When the truth came out the next morning, his hands trembled. The alarm buzzed at 4:30 a.m. Andre's hand hit the snooze button before his eyes opened. The cheap plastic clock rattled against the scratched wooden nightstand. His bedroom was dark, except for the orange streetlights seeping through the thin curtains. 5 more minutes, he mumbled, but his body was already moving. The springs of his twin bed creaked as he sat up, feet touching the cold floor. His muscles ached from yesterday's double shift. The house was quiet, too quiet. Andre missed the sound of his father's heavy boots in the hallway, getting ready for the early shift at the construction site. 3 years had passed since the accident, but some mornings, he still expected to hear those footsteps. He grabbed his gym bag from the floor and checked his phone. 3 missed calls from the hospital's billing department. His stomach tightened. His mother's heart condition wasn't getting better, and the insurance barely covered the basics. The bathroom mirror showed dark circles under his eyes. Andre splashed cold water on his face, the pipes groaning in the walls of their Compton home. He could hear his mother coughing in her room. "Mom?" He knocked softly. "You need anything?" "I'm fine, baby," she answered, her voice raspy. "Just the usual morning cough." But it wasn't just the usual. The doctors had been clear. She needed surgery, and soon. Andre clenched his jaw, remembering the numbers on the latest medical bill. He changed into his work clothes, a clean black t-shirt that showed his trained physique and professional-looking track pants. His clients in Beverly Hills expected their personal trainers to look the part. In the kitchen, he prepared a protein shake and packed his meals for the day. The fridge was half empty again. His younger sister's college application forms lay on the counter, next to his brother's high school textbooks. Both of them were still asleep, dreaming of futures that seemed increasingly out of reach. The drive to Beverly Hills took 45 minutes in the pre-dawn quiet. His old Honda Civic, inherited from his father, hummed steadily on the freeway. The radio stayed off. He needed to plan his day. 6 clients, maybe 7 if Mrs. Henderson decided to keep her afternoon slot. Each session meant money for the bills, for groceries, for his siblings' education. Beverly Hills woke up differently than Compton. Here, sprinklers hissed on perfect lawns, and gardeners were already trimming hedges into precise shapes. Andre parked his car on a side street, away from the mansion where his first client lived. Experience had taught him that some residents got nervous seeing his car in their driveways. He stepped out, adjusting his trainer's bag on his shoulder. The morning air was cool and clean here, free from the industrial smells of his neighborhood. A patrol car rolled by slowly. The officer inside gave him a long look. Andre nodded politely, keeping his face neutral. His father's voice echoed in his head. "Don't give them a reason, son. Keep your head high, but your profile low." The security guard at the gate of his client's house, a new one Andre hadn't seen before, stopped him immediately. "ID and purpose of visit," the guard demanded, hand resting near his belt. "Andre Williams, personal trainer for Mr. Richardson," Andre replied, voice steady as he pulled out his credentials. "I'm scheduled for 6 a.m. The guard took his time checking the ID, then made a call to verify. Andre stood still, knowing any sudden movement could be misinterpreted. This was part of his morning routine, too. Finally cleared, Andre walked up the curved driveway. Mrs. Richardson's Bentley gleamed in the garage, next to her husband's collection of luxury cars. One of them probably cost more than 5 years of his mother's medical bills. His phone vibrated. A text from his brother. "Mom's coughing got worse. Call the nurse." Andre's chest tightened. He needed to make enough today for the new prescription the doctor had recommended. His weekend clients had already maxed out their sessions for the month. He checked his watch. 5:50 a.m. Time for his own quick warm-up before his client arrived. As he started his stretching routine on the perfectly manicured lawn, he noticed several security cameras tracking his movement. A gardener working nearby moved to a different area when Andre got closer. A familiar sting, but he pushed it aside. He had a job to do, bills to pay, a family to support. This was his morning in Beverly Hills, one of many since he'd started building his personal training business. Each day was a balancing act between providing professional service and navigating the unspoken boundaries that came with being a young black man in this neighborhood. His watch beeped. 6 a.m. Mr. Richardson would be coming down for his session soon. Andre stood up, rolled his shoulders back, and put on his professional smile. He couldn't afford to lose this client, not with his mother's condition getting worse and his siblings' futures hanging in the balance. Movement caught his eye. A sleek, classic Mercedes turned onto the street, moving faster than usual for this quiet neighborhood. Something about its motion seemed off, erratic. Andre frowned, but his attention was pulled away by Mr. Richardson's voice from the house. Time to focus on work. The rest of Beverly Hills would have to wait. Little did he know that Mercedes would soon change everything. Keep that form tight, Mr. Richardson, Andre instructed, watching his client struggle through the last set of squats. Sweat darkened the older man's expensive workout shirt. 3 more. Focus on your breathing. The home gym in Richardson's mansion cost more than Andre's entire house. Chrome machines gleamed under recessed lighting, and a wall of mirrors reflected the sunrise through floor-to-ceiling windows. Mr. Richardson grunted through his final rep. Trying to kill me? Andre. No, sir. Just keeping you healthy. Andre handed him a monogrammed towel. Your form is improving. Those knee issues should clear up if you stick to the program. His phone buzzed in his pocket. The hospital again. Andre let it go to voicemail. Same time Thursday? Mr. Richardson asked, dabbing his face. Actually, sir, I was hoping we could add an extra session this week. I have some availability in the evenings, sorry, son. Calendar's packed. Business dinner Thursday night. Paris on Friday. Richardson checked his Rolex. Speaking of which, I'd better hit the shower. Maria will show you out. Andre's stomach sank, but he kept his professional smile. Have a good trip, Mr. Richardson. The housekeeper barely looked at him as she led him to the door. Another potential extra session gone. Another few $100s he desperately needed slipping away. Outside, the morning sun had fully risen. Andre checked his voicemail as he walked to his car. The hospital's billing department wanted to discuss payment options. He deleted the message. His phone rang again. His sister this time. Hey, Lisa. Everything okay? Mom's cough is getting worse, Lisa said, her voice tight with worry. The medicine isn't helping anymore. She can barely catch her breath. Andre leaned against his car, the metal hot against his back. Did you call Dr. Martinez? She needs to go back to the hospital, Andre. The nurse said, no. Andre cut her off. We can't afford another hospital stay right now. Let me talk to Dr. Martinez first, but just make sure she takes her medicine. I'll figure something out. He ended the call and checked his schedule. His next client wasn't for 2 hours. The drive to his old neighborhood was automatic. Andre parked in front of Joe's Construction, where his father had worked for 15 years. The building hadn't changed, same faded sign, same cracked concrete lot. He sat in his car, remembering that day 3 years ago. The phone call, the rush to the hospital, the foreman's excuses about unfortunate accidents and liability limitations. No compensation, no support, just a dead father and a family left drowning in bills. His phone chimed. A text from his next client, Mrs. Cooper. Need to cancel today's session. Something came up. Code 4. My neighbor told me about a trainer who made her feel more comfortable. Andre had seen the pattern before. He'd lose this client by next week. The morning sun beat through his windshield. Andre started his car and headed to his backup plan, the local gym where he first started training. The owner, Mike, still let him use the equipment between clients. The gym smelled of rubber mats and old sweat. Hip-hop thumped through scratchy speakers. Mike nodded from behind the counter. Rough morning? The older man asked. Lost another Beverly Hills client. Andre started his workout, loading plates onto a bar. Need to pick up extra hours somewhere. Could always come back here full-time, Mike offered. Pay's not Beverly Hills money, but it's steady. Andre added more weight. Can't. Mom's condition is getting worse. Need the higher rates? He lost himself in the familiar rhythm of lifting. Each rep burned, but it was better than thinking about the mounting bills, his mother's worsening cough, his siblings' fading college dreams. His phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Is this Mr. Andre Williams? A woman's voice, crisp and professional. Speaking. This is Sandra from Beverly Hills Credit Union. Your mortgage payment is 3 days overdue. I'll have it by Friday, Andre cut in. Just need a few more days. I understand, but given your payment history, he ended the call. The weight of the bar felt heavier now. Mike appeared with a protein shake. Your old locker's still free if you want it. Thanks, but I should go. Got a client in an hour. Back in Beverly Hills, Andre parked in his usual spot. His next client, if she showed up, was a referral from Mr. Richardson. Good money if he could keep her. He checked his phone one last time. A text from his brother. Mom's sleeping now. Lisa went to get more medicine. Andre closed his eyes. The surgery his mother needed would cost more than he made in 6 months. The payment plans the hospital offered might as well have been $1 million. A car door slammed nearby. Andre opened his eyes to see an elderly security guard eyeing him suspiciously. This area is for residents only, the guard called out. Andre held up his trainer's ID. I work here. Personal trainer. The guard squinted at the ID, but didn't come closer. Don't see many of your kind around here. The familiar heat rose in Andre's chest, but his voice stayed steady. I have a client waiting, sir, his father's words again. Keep your head high, but your profile low. The guard waved him off with obvious reluctance. Andre grabbed his bag and started his pre-session stretching routine. The morning sun was hot now, reflecting off the mansion windows around him. His phone buzzed. Another text from Lisa. Dr. Martinez wants to see Mom tomorrow. Says it's urgent. Andre stared at the message. Urgent meant expensive. Expensive meant impossible. Unless. He dialed Mr. Richardson's number. Straight to voicemail. He tried Mrs. Cooper next. No answer. The sound of an engine caught his attention. That same Mercedes from earlier, moving too fast down the quiet street. Something definitely wasn't right with its motion. But before he could focus on the car, his phone rang. The hospital again. This time, he answered. Mr. Williams, about your mother's account. A screech of tires cut through the morning air. Andre looked up, and everything else faded away. The Mercedes was out of control and heading straight for an elderly man crossing the street. The morning sun hit the polished hood of the Mercedes, nearly blinding Andre. He squinted, phone still pressed to his ear, as the hospital representative continued talking about payment plans and late fees. I'll have to call you back, he said, ending the call. The street stretched before him like a movie scene in slow motion. Palm trees swayed in the gentle breeze. Gardeners trimmed pristine hedges. A woman walked her purebred dog on the opposite sidewalk. And there, in the middle of it all, an elderly man shuffled across the street, completely unaware of the danger heading his way. Andre's muscles tensed. The Mercedes swerved erratically, its engine roaring. The driver was either unconscious or having a medical emergency. No one in control would drive like that in Beverly Hills. Hey! Andre shouted. His voice echoed off the mansion walls. Watch out! The old man didn't react. A hearing aid glinted in his ear. Several other people on the street had noticed now, but they just pulled out their phones, recording instead of helping. Andre's heart hammered against his ribs. The distance between him and the old man was about 40 yards, a sprint he could do in seconds. But his father's voice whispered in his head, Don't draw attention to yourself in these neighborhoods, son. Nothing good comes from it. The security guard who had questioned him earlier was reaching for his radio, eyes narrowing at Andre's sudden movement. 2 other guards from nearby mansions stepped out of their posts, hands hovering near their weapons. Get out of the way! Andre tried again, already knowing it was useless. The old man continued his slow progress across the street, leaning heavily on an expensive-looking cane. The Mercedes was 20 yards away now, picking up speed. Andre caught a glimpse of the driver slumped over the wheel. The car jumped the curb, scraped against a palm tree, and veered back toward the street, directly at the old man. Someone screamed. The sound snapped Andre into action. He dropped his phone and ran. The security guards shouted something. Andre ignored them, his athletic training taking over. His feet pounded against the pristine sidewalk, then the asphalt. The gap closed, 30 yards, 20, 10. He could see the old man clearly now. Expensive suit, carefully combed white hair, liver-spotted hands gripping the cane. The man finally heard the commotion and turned, agonizingly slowly, his eyes widening behind wire-rimmed glasses. Andre recognized him. Everyone in Beverly Hills would recognize him. Harold Thompson, the billionaire media mogul. The man who owned half of Hollywood. The Mercedes engine roared louder. 8 yards. Andre's lungs burned. A guard's voice cut through the chaos. Stop right there. 5 yards. The sun caught the Mercedes' chrome grille. Mr. Thompson tried to hurry his steps, but his cane slipped on the smooth asphalt. He started to fall. 3 yards. Andre could smell the car's burning rubber. 2 security guards were running toward them now, weapons drawn. Don't move, they shouted. 1 yard. The Mercedes' shadow fell over them both. Andre had a fraction of a second to make his choice. Help the old man and risk being shot by the guards, or stay back and watch Harold Thompson die. His mother's face flashed through his mind. Her morning cough. The unpaid medical bills. His siblings' college dreams, the guards were yelling. Phones were recording. The Mercedes was almost upon them. Andre thought of his father, dying alone on a construction site because no one stopped to help. Time snapped back to full speed. Andre lunged forward, his body moving on pure instinct now. His hands reached for Mr. Thompson's shoulders. The old man's eyes met his, confused, frightened, desperate. The Mercedes' horn blared. The engine screamed. The security guard shouted. Andre's world narrowed to a single point of focus, getting this old man out of death's path. His training kicked in, all those hours of studying body mechanics, teaching clients about proper form and movement. He knew exactly how to shift his weight, how to protect Mr. Thompson's head and neck, how to take the impact of the fall. They were going down. The Mercedes was right there. The guards were raising their weapons. Andre wrapped his arms around Harold Thompson and twisted, using his own body as a shield. The old man's cane clattered to the street. Someone was still screaming. The heat of the Mercedes engine washed over them. The sound of screeching brakes filled the air. Andre closed his eyes. His last thought wasn't about himself. It wasn't about the danger, or the guards, or even his family. It was his father's voice, one last time. Sometimes, son, doing the right thing means risking everything. The world exploded into chaos. Andre felt the rush of air as the Mercedes missed them by inches. His shoulder hit the asphalt hard. Mr. Thompson's weight landed on top of him. More screaming, running footsteps, the crash of the Mercedes hitting something else. Andre kept his eyes closed, waiting for the shots he was sure would come. He could feel Mr. Thompson breathing raggedly against him, alive but shaken. Dear God, the old man wheezed. You saved my life. Andre opened his eyes. The Beverly Hills sun was still shining. The palm trees were still swaying, and a dozen phones were pointed at him, recording everything. The security guards reached them, weapons still drawn. Don't move, one shouted. Hands where we can see them. Andre lay very still, his arms still protectively around Mr. Thompson. The old man tried to speak, but no words came out. This was the moment. Everything would change for better or worse. Andre looked up at the guards, at the phones recording his every breath, at the gathered crowd of Beverly Hills residents staring at him. The Mercedes had come to rest against a tree. Its driver was slumped over the wheel, unconscious but alive. Smoke rose from the crumpled hood, and there was Andre, a young black man from Compton, lying in the middle of a Beverly Hills street, his arms around one of the richest men in Los Angeles. His phone lay forgotten on the sidewalk, probably still recording the hospital's voicemail about his mother's unpaid bills. The morning sun beat down on them all, indifferent to the drama unfolding beneath it. Andre took a deep breath and prepared to face whatever came next. Time moved in snapshots. Flash. The guards' shadows fell over Andre and Mr. Thompson. Flash. Sirens wailed in the distance. Flash. The crowd pressed closer, phones raised like weapons. Get up slowly, the first guard ordered, his gun still trained on Andre. Hands where we can see them. Wait, Mr. Thompson wheezed, struggling to sit up. This young man, he saved my life. Andre's shoulder throbbed where it had hit the asphalt. He kept his movements slow, deliberate. One wrong twitch could still end badly. Sir, please stay down until medical help arrives, another guard said to Mr. Thompson. This man, Mr. Thompson interrupted, his voice stronger now. Just risked his life to save mine. Lower your weapons immediately. The guards hesitated. Andre remained frozen, his hands visible, his breath shallow. I said lower your weapons. Mr. Thompson's voice cracked with authority. The guards finally complied, though their hands stayed near their holsters. Scattered applause broke out from the gathering crowd. Phones kept recording. Someone in the back shouted, "He's a hero." Andre's training instincts took over. "Mr. Thompson, try not to move too much. We should check for injuries." The old man chuckled weakly. "My pride is bruised, but I believe everything else is intact. Thanks to you." Andre Williams. "Sir, I'm a personal trainer in the neighborhood." More sirens approached. The Mercedes engine ticked as it cooled, smoke still rising from its crumpled hood. Someone had already reached the unconscious driver and was checking his pulse. "He's alive," the Good Samaritan called out. "Looks like he had a seizure or something." Police cars screeched to a halt around them. Paramedics weren't far behind. The quiet Beverly Hills morning had turned into chaos. "Mr. Thompson," a woman in expensive yoga were pushed through the crowd. "I saw everything. It was incredible. This young man came out of nowhere, like a superhero." More voices joined in. "I got it all on video. Did you see how fast he moved? He could have been killed." Andre's phone lay forgotten on the sidewalk where he'd dropped it. The hospital's billing department would have to wait. Two paramedics reached them, equipment in hand. "Everyone please step back," one ordered. "We need space." The female paramedic knelt beside Mr. Thompson. "Sir, can you tell me if anything hurts?" "Just my dignity," he replied. "But please check on the young man who saved me. He took quite a fall." The male paramedic turned to Andre. "Any pain or dizziness?" Andre started to say he was fine, but his shoulder screamed when he tried to move it. "Right shoulder. Might have hit it pretty hard." Police officers were setting up a perimeter now, pushing back the crowd. One officer approached Andre, notebook in hand. "Need to get your statement, sir." "Officer," Mr. Thompson cut in, "this can wait until we've both been properly examined. This young man is a hero, not a suspect." Andre caught fragments of conversations from the crowd. "Isn't that Harold Thompson, the media mogul? His son's going to flip when he hears. That car almost killed him. Thank God that trainer was here." The female paramedic helped Mr. Thompson to his feet. He was steady but moved carefully. "Young man," he called to Andre, "you're coming to the hospital with me." "I insist." "Sir, I have clients. They'll understand." Mr. Thompson's tone left no room for argument. "Besides, we need to talk." A sleek black SUV pulled up, and a man in an expensive suit jumped out. "Mr. Thompson, are you all right? We just got the call." "Marcus, good. Call Jeffrey. Tell him to meet us at Cedars-Sinai. And find out who this young man's clients are for today. They need to be notified he's had an emergency." The man, apparently Mr. Thompson's assistant, was already on his phone, efficiency in motion. Andre thought of his mother, his siblings. They needed to know he was okay before they saw this on the news. "My phone here." A young woman stepped forward, holding his phone. "I saw you drop it. The screen's a little cracked, but it still works." Andre took it with his good hand. 3 missed calls from his sister. A text from his brother. "Mom's asking for you." The paramedics were leading them toward the ambulance. Mr. Thompson insisted they ride together, overriding the paramedics' protests. As they helped Andre onto the stretcher, he saw the growing media presence. News vans were already arriving. Reporters shouted questions. "Mr. Thompson, what happened?" "Sir, can you comment on the rescue?" "Young man, what made you risk your life?" The ambulance doors closed, muffling the chaos outside. Mr. Thompson sat on the bench beside Andre's stretcher, oxygen mask temporarily on his face. "Your shoulder," the old man asked, lifting the mask slightly. "Just bruised, I think." Andre tried to smile reassuringly. "You could have died." Mr. Thompson's eyes were sharp despite his ordeal. "Why did you do it?" Andre thought of his father, of empty construction sites and unanswered calls for help. "Because it was right, sir, that's all." The old man studied him for a long moment. "What did you say your full name was?" "Andre Williams." Mr. Thompson nodded slowly. "Well, Mr. Williams, I believe you, and I have a lot to discuss once we get to the hospital." The ambulance wound through Beverly Hills traffic, sirens clearing their path. Andre's phone buzzed again. His sister. Mr. Thompson noticed. Family? Yes, sir, they'll be worried. Of course they will. The old man gestured to his assistant, who had somehow managed to ride with them. Marcus, make sure Mr. Williams's family is notified and brought to the hospital. Send a car for them. Sir, that's not necessary. Young man, Mr. Thompson interrupted. You just saved my life. Let me at least ensure your family's peace of mind. Andre's shoulder throbbed with each turn of the ambulance. His mind raced with the morning's events. One moment he'd been worried about lost clients and unpaid bills. Now he was heading to the hospital with one of the most powerful men in Los Angeles. His phone buzzed one more time. The hospital's billing department again. Andre almost laughed at the irony. Mr. Thompson was watching him closely. Something amusing? Just thinking about how quickly life can change, sir. Indeed it can, Mr. Williams, indeed it can. The ambulance turned onto the hospital's emergency entrance. Through the back windows, Andre could see more news vans following. Whatever happened next would change everything. He just didn't know if it would be for better or worse. The ambulance doors opened to a flood of light and noise. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted. Medical staff rushed forward. And somewhere in Compton, Andre's family was about to learn that their son, brother, and provider had just risked everything to save a stranger's life. The morning was far from over. The emergency room buzzed with controlled chaos. Andre sat on an exam bed, his shirt off, as a doctor examined his shoulder. The thin curtain around them did little to muffle the commotion outside. Definite contusion, the doctor said, pressing gently. Possibly a minor separation. We'll need X-rays to be sure. Andre winced at the pressure. How long will that take? Trying to escape already? The doctor smiled. The same determination that made you run toward danger instead of away from it. Before Andre could respond, voices rose outside the curtain. I don't care about hospital protocol. That's my father in there. A man's voice, sharp with authority. Sir, please, we need to. The curtain whipped open. A man in his 40s, wearing a suit that probably cost more than Andre's car, stood there. His eyes darted between Andre and the doctor. Sorry, he said, not sounding sorry at all. Looking for Harold Thompson. Next bay over, the doctor replied calmly. But sir, the man was already gone. Andre heard Mr. Thompson's voice. Jeffrey, stop terrorizing the staff. The doctor shook his head. Jeffrey Thompson runs his father's media empire now. Not known for his bedside manner. He turned back to Andre. Let's get those X-rays. Andre's phone buzzed. Lisa again. Need to take this, he said. It's my sister. The doctor nodded and stepped out. Andre answered with his good hand. Lisa. Andre. Her voice cracked. We just saw it on the news. Are you okay? They're saying you saved Harold Thompson. The Harold Thompson? I'm fine. Just getting checked out at the hospital. How's Mom? Worried sick about you. They sent a car for us. Actual limousine? Andre. We're on our way. A limo? Andre sat up straighter. Who sent it? Mr. Thompson's office. Some man named Marcus called. Said they're handling everything. She paused. Andre. What's going to happen now? I don't know, sis. I've got to go. Doctor's waiting. See you soon? We're about 10 minutes out. Love you, bro. Love you too. He ended the call just as the curtain opened again. Jeffrey Thompson stood there, his expression unreadable. Mr. Williams, his voice was clipped professional. A word? The doctor returned. Actually, we need to get those X-rays. It'll just take a moment. Jeffrey's tone made it clear he wasn't asking. Andre nodded to the doctor. 5 minutes? Jeffrey led him to a small waiting area, empty except for 2 security guards. The younger Thompson studied Andre for a long moment. That was quite a thing you did, he finally said. Anyone would have, no. Jeffrey cut him off. They wouldn't. I saw the video. Everyone else just stood there, recording on their phones. You ran toward the danger. He paused. Why? Andre met his gaze. Because your father needed help. Simple as that? Simple as that? Jeffrey nodded slowly. You're a personal trainer? Yes, sir, in Beverly Hills. And you just happened to be there when... Jeffrey. Mr. Thompson's voice boomed from his room. Stop interrogating the young man and get in here. A flicker of something. Embarrassment? crossed Jeffrey's face. We'll talk more later, Mr. Williams. Andre returned to the exam room, where the doctor waited with a wheelchair. Hospital policy, he said apologetically. For the X-ray department. In the hallway, reporters pressed against the entrance doors, held back by security. Phones flashed. Andre caught fragments of their shouts. Mr. Williams, a statement, please. How does it feel to be a hero? Did you know it was Harold Thompson? The elevator doors closed, silencing the chaos. The doctor pressed the button for radiology. You've caused quite a stir, he said. Haven't seen this much excitement since they brought in that movie star last year. The X-ray technician was efficient and professional, though Andre caught her sneaking glances at him. You're the one from the news, she finally said. My son showed me the video. You were amazing. Back in the exam room, Andre checked his phone again. The video had gone viral. Hundreds of thousands of views already. Comments poured in. Real-life hero. Finally some good news. That speed and precision, definitely a trained athlete. Guardian angel in Beverly Hills. A soft knock on the door. Marcus, Mr. Thompson's assistant, entered. Your family has arrived. Mr. Williams, would you like to see them? Andre started to stand, but the doctor pushed him back down. After I give you the results, the X-rays showed no serious damage. Rest, ice, anti-inflammatories, the doctor prescribed. Follow up with your primary care physician in a week. Andre thought of his family's insurance situation, but pushed it aside. One problem at a time, Marcus led him to a private waiting area. His mother rushed forward as soon as she saw him. Baby! She hugged him carefully, mindful of his shoulder. What were you thinking? You could have been killed. His siblings crowded around. Lisa's eyes were red from crying. His brother Marcus just stared at him in awe. Bro, Marcus whispered. You're trending on Twitter. Mr. Williams? A nurse appeared at the door. Mr. Thompson would like to see you and your family. They followed her to a private room. Harold Thompson sat up in bed, looking remarkably composed for someone who'd nearly died an hour ago. Jeffrey stood by the window, phone in hand. Mrs. Williams, Mr. Thompson said warmly. Please come in. Your son is quite remarkable. Andre's mother straightened her shirt nervously. Mr. Thompson, please. He held up a hand. Your son saved my life today. The least you can do is call me Harold. Jeffrey cleared his throat. Father, the press is getting restless. They want a statement. Then let's give them one. Mr. Thompson's eyes twinkled. But first, I believe Andre and I have some matters to discuss. He looked at Marcus. Would you show Mrs. Williams and her children to the cafeteria? Get them whatever they'd like. After they left, Mr. Thompson gestured to a chair beside his bed. Sit, young man. My son tells me you're a personal trainer. Yes, sir, in Beverly Hills. And how's business? Andre hesitated. It's challenging sometimes. Because of the color of your skin? Mr. Thompson asked bluntly. Sometimes. The old man nodded. I saw how those guards reacted to you. Even as you were saving my life, they had their weapons drawn. I'm used to it, sir. You shouldn't have to be. Mr. Thompson leaned forward. Tell me, Andre, what would you do if money wasn't an issue? The question caught him off guard. Sir? Your dreams, young man. What are they? Andre thought of his mother's medical bills, his siblings' college applications. I want to take care of my family, sir, give them the opportunities they deserve. Mr. Thompson smiled. A noble goal. But what about for yourself? Before Andre could answer, the door opened. A nurse entered with medication for Mr. Thompson. We'll continue this conversation soon, the old man said. Very soon, outside the room, the hospital hallway had become a media circus. Through the window, Andre could see reporters setting up cameras, waiting for a statement. His phone buzzed with another call from the hospital billing department. Everything was about to change. He just didn't know how much. The hospital cafeteria buzzed with whispers. Andre sat with his family at a corner table, untouched coffee growing cold in front of him. Every few minutes, someone would walk by, phone raised discreetly, trying to snap a picture. Baby, you need to eat something, his mother said, pushing his sandwich toward him. Not hungry, Mom. Andre checked his phone again. The video had passed 1 million views. His social media notifications had exploded so much that he'd had to turn them off. Lisa scrolled through her own phone. They're calling you the Beverly Hills hero online. Some news sites are already trying to dig up information about us. Great, Andre muttered. A group of nurses walked by, pointing and whispering. Marcus, his assistant at Thompson Media, appeared at their table. Mr. Williams, the police would like to take your official statement now. Andre stood, his shoulder protesting. How long will this take? As long as necessary. Marcus gestured toward a private conference room. Mr. Thompson's lawyers will be present. His mother grabbed his hand. Should we get our own lawyer? That won't be necessary, Mrs. Williams, Marcus assured her. Mr. Thompson has instructed his legal team to protect Andre's interests as well. The conference room felt sterile under fluorescent lights. 2 police officers sat at the table, along with a detective and 3 men in expensive suits, Thompson's lawyers. Please state your name for the record, one officer said, starting a recorder. Andre Williams. Mr. Williams, walk us through what happened this morning. Andre recounted everything, his morning routine, spotting the car, the rescue. The lawyers nodded approvingly at his clear, factual responses. And you had no prior knowledge of Mr. Thompson's presence in the area? The detective asked. No, sir. You're a personal trainer in Beverly Hills, the detective continued. Any previous interaction with Mr. Thompson or his family? One of the lawyers cut in. Is there a reason for this line of questioning? The detective shrugged. Just being thorough. A knock at the door. Jeffrey Thompson entered, his face tight with stress. Are we almost done here? The press is getting restless. We need to make a statement soon. The senior lawyer stood. I believe we have everything we need. Mr. Williams has clearly demonstrated that his actions were purely heroic, with no ulterior motives. The police packed up their equipment. Before leaving, the detective handed Andre his card. Call if you remember anything else. Jeffrey stayed behind. We're holding a press conference in an hour. We'd like you to be there. I don't know about talking to reporters. You won't have to say anything if you don't want to. Just stand there. Look heroic. Jeffrey's attempt at a smile came out more like a grimace. The narrative is already forming. We might as well control it. Andre's phone buzzed. A text from Mr. Richardson. Saw the news. Incredible what you did. We'll definitely add those extra sessions you wanted. Another text came in. This one from Mrs. Cooper, the client who had canceled earlier. So proud to know you. When can we reschedule? Jeffrey noticed Andre's expression. Something wrong? No. Andre put his phone away. Just people seeing me differently now. Get used to it. Jeffrey checked his watch. The press conference is at 2. Marcus will get you and your family something appropriate to wear. After Jeffrey left, Andre returned to the cafeteria. His family wasn't alone anymore. Mr. Thompson sat with them, looking remarkably recovered, sharing what appeared to be an animated story. There he is, Mr. Thompson called out. Andre, I was just telling your mother about my own father. Did you know he worked construction too? Andre's mother wiped tears from her eyes, laughing at whatever story she'd just heard. Lisa and his brother looked starstruck. Sir, should you be out of bed? Nonsense. I've been cleared. Mr. Thompson waved off his concern. Besides, I needed to speak with your family about some things. Something in his tone made Andre pause. What things? Well, for starters, your mother's medical situation. Mr. Thompson's eyes turned serious. She told me about her heart condition. I've had my personal physician look at her records. He's already consulting with the top cardiac surgeon in Los Angeles. Andre's mother started to protest, but Mr. Thompson held up his hand. Please, let me do this. Consider it a down payment on my debt to your son. There's no debt, sir, Andre said quietly. No. Mr. Thompson raised an eyebrow. I rather think there is. A life debt, at the very least. He turned to Lisa. And you, young lady, your brother mentioned your college applications. Lisa straightened in her chair. Yes, sir. I made some calls. Harvard's admissions office is expecting your materials. Same for your brother's early application next year. Andre's head spun. Mr. Thompson, that's too much. Too much. The old man laughed. Young man, you literally put your life on the line for mine. And from what your mother tells me, you've been putting your dreams on hold to support your family since your father passed. A nurse approached their table. Mr. Thompson, it's time for your medication. Duty calls? He stood carefully. Andre, we'll talk more after the press conference. Marcus will help you prepare. As if summoned, Marcus appeared with garment bags. The stylist is ready when you are. The next hour passed in a blur. Andre found himself in a private room, being fitted with a suit that probably cost more than his monthly rent. His family received similar treatment. The media is going crazy, the stylist said as she adjusted his tie. Everyone wants to know about the mysterious hero who saved Harold Thompson. Through the window, Andre could see the hospital's parking lot packed with news vans. A crowd had gathered behind barricades. His phone buzzed again. The hospital billing department. This time he answered, "Mr. Williams, about your mother's outstanding balance. That's been taken care of," a new voice cut in. Marcus had taken the phone. "You'll be receiving payment in full within the hour, and all future treatments will be billed directly to the Thompson Family Foundation." Andre stared at him. Marcus ended the call with a small smile. "Mr. Thompson's orders. He's very thorough when he decides to help someone." A knock at the door. Jeffrey entered, looking slightly less stressed than before. "Ready?" "The vultures are waiting." Andre looked at his reflection in the mirror. The expensive suit felt foreign. His shoulder ached dully. Less than 8 hours ago, he'd been worried about losing clients and paying bills. What do I say to them? Jeffrey's expression softened slightly. The truth. That's always the easiest story to tell. They walked toward the hospital's main conference room, his family following. Cameras flashed through the windows. Reporters shouted questions. Andre felt his mother's hand slip into his good one. She squeezed gently. "Your father would be so proud," she whispered. The conference room doors loomed ahead. Beyond them, dozens of reporters waited to hear the story of how a young black personal trainer from Compton had risked everything to save one of the most powerful men in Los Angeles. Andre took a deep breath. The next few minutes would change his life forever. He just hoped he was ready for what came next. Camera flashes exploded as Andre stepped onto the podium. His new suit felt stiff, the collar too tight. Mr. Thompson stood beside him, one hand on Andre's good shoulder. "Ladies and gentlemen," Jeffrey Thompson began, "thank you for your patience. We'll start with a brief statement, then take a few questions." The reporters leaned forward, recorders extended. Andre counted at least 15 TV cameras. "This morning," Jeffrey continued, "we witnessed something extraordinary. A young man, with everything to lose and nothing to gain, risked his life to save my father's. That young man is Andre Williams." More camera flashes. Andre kept his face neutral, just as Marcus had coached him. "Mr. Williams," a reporter called out, "what went through your mind when you saw the car?" Andre leaned toward the microphone. "I just saw someone who needed help. That's all." "Did you know it was Harold Thompson?" "Not until I was already running." "Would you have acted differently if you'd known?" Andre felt Mr. Thompson's hand tighten slightly on his shoulder. "No. A life is a life." The questions came rapid fire. "What about the security guards? Are you worried about legal repercussions? How does it feel to be a hero?" Jeffrey stepped in. "My father has a statement to make." Mr. Thompson moved to the microphone. The room hushed. "Today, I got a second chance at life, thanks to this young man's courage. But what strikes me most isn't just his bravery in the moment. It's what I've learned about him since." Andre shifted uncomfortably as Mr. Thompson continued. "Andre Williams lost his father 3 years ago. Instead of breaking, he stepped up, became the provider for his family, put his own dreams on hold, works 2 jobs while helping his siblings prepare for college." Mr. Thompson turned to face Andre. "That's the real heroism. Not just one moment of courage, but years of quiet sacrifice." Cameras clicked frantically. Andre saw his mother wiping tears in the front row. "Which is why," Mr. Thompson announced, "the Thompson Family Foundation is establishing a $2.5 million trust in Andre Williams' name." The room erupted. Andre's ears rang. His mother gasped. "This trust," Mr. Thompson continued over the chaos, "will ensure his family's medical needs are met, his siblings' education is funded, and his own dreams can finally be pursued." More questions exploded. "Mr. Williams, how do you feel about this gift? What are your plans for the money?" "Mr. Thompson, why this specific amount?" Jeffrey ended the conference shortly after, leading them through a private exit. In a quiet hallway, Andre finally found his voice. "Mr. Thompson, I can't accept. You can and you will. The old man's tone was firm but kind. Consider it an investment in your future. Andre's phone hadn't stopped buzzing. Texts from clients, old friends, even his high school teachers. Everyone had seen the news. Marcus appeared with more papers. The trust paperwork needs your signature. Also, Good Morning America wants an exclusive interview tomorrow. Tomorrow? Andre's head spun. I have clients. All been notified, Marcus assured him. Mr. Thompson's office is handling everything. His mother approached, still dabbing her eyes. Baby, can you believe it? Before Andre could answer, a doctor arrived with discharge papers for both him and Mr. Thompson. Rest that shoulder, she instructed Andre, and try to avoid any more heroics for at least a few weeks. Outside, the media circus had grown. Police held back reporters as they made their way to waiting cars. Andre, over here. Mrs. Williams, how does it feel to have your son be a hero? Mr. Thompson, any comment on the trust amount? The questions followed them into the parking lot. Two black SUVs waited, engines running. Your car's been taken to your home, Marcus told Andre. We'll drive you. In the SUV's quiet interior, reality started to sink in. Andre stared at his phone, reading messages from his clients. Mr. Richardson, proud to know you, son. Take all the time you need. Mrs. Cooper, my hero. Can't wait to tell everyone my trainers saved Harold Thompson. New messages from potential clients he'd never met. Would love to discuss training opportunities. Lisa scrolled through social media on her phone. Bro, you're everywhere. People are calling you the guardian angel of Beverly Hills. His brother chimed in. The video has like 5 million views now. Their mother sat quietly, holding Andre's hand. Her eyes were red from crying, but she smiled. The SUV turned onto their street in Compton. Neighbors lined the sidewalks, cheering as they arrived. Someone had hung a banner. Welcome home, hero. Oh, Lord, his mother whispered. News vans were already there. Reporters shouted questions as they hurried inside. Their small living room felt crowded with security personnel checking the premises. Marcus efficiently directed the chaos. We'll have someone posted outside 24/7, he explained. Just until things calmed down, Andre's shoulder throbbed. The events of the day crashed over him like a wave. His phone buzzed again. A text from Mr. Thompson. Get some rest. Tomorrow's a big day. And Andre? Thank you. Not just for saving my life, but for showing me what real character looks like. Andre sank onto their worn couch. The trust paperwork sat on the coffee table, waiting for his signature. $2.5 million. His mother's medical bills covered. His siblings' college dreams secured. You okay, baby? His mother asked softly. Just tired, Mom? He managed to smile. It's been a long day. Lisa brought him ice for his shoulder. His brother turned on the TV. They were on every news channel. Sources say the trust fund established by Harold Thompson amounts to $2.5 million. The young hero's background reveals a story of family dedication. From personal trainer to local hero. A knock at the door made everyone jump. Security checked, then admitted Jeffrey Thompson. Sorry to intrude, he said, looking strangely uncomfortable in their modest home. But there's something else we need to discuss. Andre sat up straighter. More paperwork? No. Jeffrey pulled out his phone. The video of your rescue. It's gone beyond viral. Major networks are fighting for exclusive rights. Hollywood's already calling about movie deals. Movie deals? Andre's mother repeated faintly. Your story resonates, Jeffrey explained. The young man from Compton who risked everything to save a Beverly Hills billionaire. People want to hear more. Andre shook his head. I'm not interested in. Just listen, Jeffrey interrupted. This could be bigger than the trust fund. Much bigger. But we need to move fast, control the narrative. Outside, cameras flashed through their windows. Someone had begun flying a drone over their backyard. We can move you to a secure location, Jeffrey offered. Somewhere more private. Until things calmed down, Andre looked around their small living room. The faded photos of his father. The college brochures on the table. His mother's prescription bottles lined up on the kitchen counter. 24 hours ago, his biggest worry had been losing clients and paying bills. Now, his phone buzzed yet again. This time, it was a text from the cardiac surgeon Mr. Thompson had mentioned. Reviewed your mother's case. Can schedule surgery for next week. Everything's been arranged. Andre took a deep breath. What do you need me to do? Jeffrey smiled for the first time since they'd met. Just be yourself. That seems to be working pretty well so far. Outside, the media circus continued to grow. Inside, Andre's family huddled close, still processing the day's events. Tomorrow would bring more changes, more decisions, more attention. But for now, Andre just sat with his family, ice on his shoulder, watching their story play out on national news. The day wasn't over yet. Not by a long shot. The Thompson Media Group conference room overlooked downtown Los Angeles. Andre sat at the massive table, his mother on one side, a team of lawyers on the other. A week had passed since the rescue, but it felt like years. So these are the movie rights contracts, the lead attorney explained, sliding over a thick stack of papers. 3 studios are bidding. The numbers are substantial. Andre loosened his tie. Another designer suit, another gift from Mr. Thompson. How substantial? 7 figures. Each. The lawyer smiled. Plus percentage points on the back end. His mother squeezed his hand under the table. They'd been in meetings all morning, trust fund arrangements, investment advisors, publicity contracts. Marcus entered with coffee and more papers. Good Morning America ratings just came in. Your interview was their highest viewed segment this year. Andre nodded absently, remembering the nerve-wracking live appearance. The host had asked about his father, about growing up in Compton, about facing prejudice in Beverly Hills. He'd stuck to simple truths, just as Jeffrey had advised. His phone buzzed, a text from Lisa. Harvard interview went amazing. They're offering a full ride. Andre smiled. The admissions office had fast-tracked her application after Mr. Thompson's call. His brother's early acceptance was practically guaranteed for next year. There's one more thing, the lawyer said. The security footage from the incident? Multiple companies want to license it for commercials. Insurance companies, mainly. They're offering. No. Andre's voice was firm. The news can use it, but I don't want it in commercials. The lawyers exchanged glances. Marcus nodded approvingly. A knock at the door. Jeffrey Thompson entered, looking more relaxed than Andre had ever seen him. How's your mother's pre-op appointment? He asked. Good, Andre replied. Dr. Stevens says her chances are excellent. The surgery was scheduled for tomorrow. The best cardiac surgeon in the country had rearranged his schedule after Mr. Thompson's call. And your shoulder? Andre rotated it carefully. Much better. Doctor cleared me to return to training next week. About that, Jeffrey sat down. We've had some inquiries. High-profile clients. Celebrities. They all want the hero trainer now. Andre's phone buzzed again. His old client list had exploded. Even Mrs. Cooper, who had canceled that fateful morning, was now offering double her usual rate. I can't handle that many clients, Andre said. So expand, Jeffrey suggested. Open your own gym. The Thompson Group would back you. His mother spoke up. You've always talked about that, baby. Your own place. Andre remembered long nights dreaming about it. A state-of-the-art facility. Training programs for at-risk youth. Scholarships for kids who couldn't afford memberships. Think about it, Jeffrey said, standing. No rush. Father wants to see you. By the way, he's in his office. The elevator ride to the executive floor gave Andre time to think. A week ago, he'd been struggling to pay bills. Now he had trust funds, movie deals, and business opportunities. Mr. Thompson's office door was open. The old man sat at his desk, looking energetic despite his recent ordeal. Andre, come in, come in. How's the family? Adjusting. Sir, it's a lot to take in. I imagine so. Mr. Thompson gestured to a chair. Your mother's surgery is tomorrow? Yes, sir. Thank you again for... Stop thanking me. Mr. Thompson's voice was kind but firm. Everything you're getting, you earned. Not just by saving my life, but by how you've lived yours. He pulled out a folder. I've been looking into your father's accident. Andre stiffened. Sir? Construction company denied responsibility. No compensation. No support for your family. Mr. Thompson's eyes hardened. That's going to change. The company went bankrupt. The owner moved assets to a new corporation. Mr. Thompson tapped the folder. My lawyers found everything. They're drafting papers now. Andre's throat tightened. You don't have to. I want to. Mr. Thompson leaned forward. You know what struck me most about you, Andre? Not just your courage that day, but your dignity. Your grace under pressure. The security guards had guns drawn, but you stayed focused on saving me. Andre shifted uncomfortably. The incident had sparked heated discussions about racial profiling in Beverly Hills. The world's going to want things from you now, Mr. Thompson continued. Interviews, appearances, endorsements. But remember, you don't owe anyone anything. Your story is yours to tell. Your way. A knock at the door. Marcus entered with an iPad. Sorry to interrupt, but you should see this. He pulled up a news website. Andre's rescue was still the top story, but the angle had shifted. Hero trainer reveals pattern of discrimination in Beverly Hills. Andre's stomach dropped. They were quoting his Good Morning America interview, where he'd briefly mentioned the security guard's reactions. Don't worry, Mr. Thompson said, reading his expression. This is good. Truth needs to be told, but I don't want to be the face of. Sometimes we don't choose our platforms, they choose us. Mr. Thompson stood slowly. You did a brave thing, Andre. But maybe an even braver thing is being honest about your experiences afterward. Andre's phone buzzed continuously now. Social media notifications, interview requests, client messages. His old life slipping away with each ping. I should get back downstairs, he said. The lawyers are waiting. One more thing. Mr. Thompson handed him an envelope. The renovation plans for your mother's house. Security upgrades, medical equipment. Everything she'll need for recovery. Andre blinked back tears. Mr. Thompson. Harold, the old man corrected. I think we're well past formalities. In the elevator, Andre checked his messages. Lisa had sent photos from Harvard's campus. His brother's school was already talking about a scholarship in their family's name. The conference room was still full of lawyers when he returned. More contracts. More decisions. More changes. His mother looked up as he entered. Everything okay, baby? Andre thought about Mr. Thompson's words. About platforms choosing you. About truth needing to be told. Yeah, Mom? He sat down, straightening the papers in front of him. Everything's okay. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, Los Angeles sprawled beneath them. Somewhere out there was his old life. The struggling trainer, the unpaid bills, the daily battles with prejudice. But in here, in this moment, change was happening. Not just for him, but for his family, for his community, maybe even for those security guards who had drawn their weapons instead of helping. Let's talk about that, Jim, he told Jeffrey's lawyers. I have some ideas. The future was rushing toward him, full of possibilities he'd never dared to dream of. All because he'd chosen to run toward danger instead of away from it. 1 month after the rescue, Andre stood in front of his new gym. The renovated warehouse in Compton gleamed in the morning sun, its walls freshly painted, the sign above the door simple, but elegant, Second Chance Fitness. Ready? Jeffrey Thompson asked, holding the ribbon-cutting scissors. Andre looked at the crowd gathered for the opening. His mother sat in the front row, her color better than it had been in years, her surgery a complete success. Lisa and his brother flanked her, both wearing Harvard sweatshirts. One current student, one future. Ready, Andre answered. The ribbon fell. Applause erupted. Cameras flashed. But these weren't paparazzi anymore. Just local news, covering a positive story in their community. Inside, the gym sparkled with top-of-the-line equipment. One wall displayed a mural of his father in his construction gear, smiling proudly. Below it, a plaque announced the gym's mission, building strength in body and community. Mr. Thompson, Harold now, as he insisted, approached with his walking stick. He'd recovered fully from the near accident. Quite a change from training in Beverly Hills mansions, he observed. Andre watched as neighborhood kids explored the facility, their eyes wide at equipment they'd never had access to before. Different clientele, Andre agreed. But that's the point. The gym scholarship program had already enrolled 50 local youth. The training certification program would start next month, offering career opportunities to young adults who couldn't afford traditional education. His phone buzzed, not with interview requests anymore, but with class registrations. The morning's first session would start soon. Mr. Williams? A teenage boy approached nervously. Is it true what they say? About how you saved Mr. Thompson? Andre smiled. What's your name? Marcus. Like your brother. Well, Marcus, want to hear the whole story? The boy nodded eagerly. Other kids gathered around as Andre sat on a weight bench. I was having a rough morning, he began. Worried about bills, about my family. He told the story simply, focusing not on the heroics, but on the choice. The decision to help someone in need, regardless of consequences. The real heroes, he concluded, are the ones who make that choice every day. The parents working multiple jobs. The kids studying hard despite tough circumstances. The people who help others even when no one's filming. The kids absorbed his words. In the back, Andre saw his mother wiping tears. Jeffrey approached with a tablet. The settlement came through. Your father's old company's insurance finally paid out. Andre nodded. The money didn't matter anymore, not with the trust fund and other opportunities, but the acknowledgement did. Justice, even delayed, meant something. His first class gathered near the main floor. Neighborhood residents who'd never had access to professional training before. Andre stood, his shoulder fully healed now. Better get to work, he told Jeffrey. Got clients waiting. The class started simply. Introductions, basic assessments, goal setting. But Andre saw in their eyes what he'd seen in his Beverly Hills clients. Hope, determination, the desire for change. During a water break, his phone showed a text from Mrs. Cooper. Miss your training sessions. Beverly Hills isn't the same without you. Andre smiled. He still had a few high-profile clients, ones willing to come to Compton to see beyond zip codes and prejudices. Their fees helped fund the scholarship programs. The movie about his story had started production. Andre had insisted on script approval, making sure it showed the whole truth. Not just the rescue, but the daily reality of being a young black man in Beverly Hills. Mr. Williams? A woman in his class raised her hand. Is it true you're going to train celebrities here? Everyone trains together here, Andre replied. That's the whole point. The morning sun streamed through the high windows, catching the gym's motto painted on the wall. Strength knows no boundaries. His mother had suggested those words, remembering something his father used to say. It's not about where you train, son. It's about why. The class resumed. Andre moved among his clients, correcting forms, offering encouragement. This was what he'd always wanted, not just training bodies but building community. Later, during lunch break, Harold pulled him aside. The security company called, the old man said. They want you to lead their diversity training program. Andre had insisted on changes after the incident. The guards who had drawn weapons during his rescue had been suspended, then retrained. Now they wanted him to help reform the whole system. Tell them I'll do it, Andre decided. But here, in my gym, Harold smiled. Making them come to Compton? Brave choice. No braver than running toward danger instead of away from it. The afternoon brought more classes, more stories, more connections. Andre's brother taught a youth fitness class, part of his college application project. Lisa helped with administrative work between Harvard semesters. Near closing time, a familiar face appeared. The security guard who had questioned Andre that fateful morning. Mr. Williams? The guard looked uncomfortable in civilian clothes. Got a minute? They talked in Andre's office. Once a storage room, now a space filled with plans and possibilities. I wanted to apologize, the guard said. What I did that day. Water under the bridge, Andre replied. But if you really want to make it right, help me change things. The guard nodded slowly. That's why I'm here. Heard you're doing security training. Andre handed him a schedule. Starts next week. Bring your colleagues. As the sun set, Andre locked up the gym. The parking lot where he'd once worried about paying bills now held a mix of vehicles. Luxury cars next to old sedans. All their owners unified by the desire to grow stronger. His phone showed one last message for the day from Harold. Dinner tomorrow? The family wants to celebrate 1 month since, well, you know. Andre texted back. Only if it's at my mom's. She's cooking. Wouldn't have it any other way, came the reply. Standing there, keys in hand, Andre remembered his father's words from long ago. Success isn't about where you end up, son. It's about how many people you help along the way. The gym's lights dimmed behind him. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, new chances to make a difference. But for now, Andre Williams, personal trainer, community leader, reluctant hero, headed home to his family, carrying not the weight of worry anymore, but the strength of purpose. Some would say he'd saved Harold Thompson's life that morning in Beverly Hills. But the truth was, that moment had saved something in him too. His faith in possibility, in justice, in the power of one person's choice to change not just a life, but a community. And that was worth more than all the trust funds in Beverly Hills.